Hi, good afternoon, and a very warm welcome to the high school webinar for UWC My name is Malika Ramdas. I'm Director of Admissions, and I'm very delighted to be your host today. We're just going to give our attendees a few moments to join the presentation, and then we'll get underway. Thank you so much for your patience. Hello again. Good afternoon and a very warm welcome. You are in our high school webinar featuring lots of information about the learning program that we offer at UWC SEA in our high schools on both campuses, East and Dover. My name is Malika Ramdas. I'm Director of Admissions, and it's my great pleasure to host today's webinar and tell you a little bit about the program on offer this afternoon. So in a few moments, I'm going to hand you over to the principal on one of our campuses. But before that, a little bit about what you can expect today. So we're going to have quite a detailed presentation about the learning program that we offer in our high school. That's grades 9, 10, 11, and 12. As you probably know, we have two wonderful campuses in Singapore, and this learning program covers our offer on both campuses at the college. So you'll hear from our principals and vice principals who are splitting up the presentation into various sections, and you'll hear about all the elements of our amazing holistic learning program. At the end, after the presentation, we will have about 30 minutes for Q&A. Your questions are very welcome at any point during today's session, and I invite you to place your questions into the Q&A button that you can find at the bottom of your Zoom screen. So just some information. Today's webinar is part of a series of open day events that we've been hosting over the last few weeks. And in fact, this week is our very last week of open days events at the college. So in addition to today's webinar about the high school program, I want to do a little shout out for our boarding webinar, which will take place this Wednesday in the afternoon. So if you have an interest in applying for boarding in particular and would like to learn more about our incredible boarding communities on both campuses, please do sign up and tune in to that. It's still not too late to sign up for our remaining open day events. And we would love to see you at our boarding webinar if that's of interest. And then we have our last two on-campus events on Thursday and Friday. We are hosting our high school open days on East on Thursday, the 2nd of October, and on Dover on Friday, the 3rd of October. So again, if you haven't yet signed up, we would warmly encourage you to do that, and we really look forward to seeing you on campus. Now, today's presentation will not be talking about admissions because we already delivered a webinar about our admissions philosophy and process, and that is recorded and available on our website. We had a number of other webinars as well, so if you have younger children who you're thinking about for our primary years or middle years programs, do check out our recorded webinars that were already offered about those areas of the school. Okay, so just one last little tip, and that is that today's webinar is being recorded, and we will have that available for you on our website, and it will also be sent to you as a follow-up. But we do hope that you have time to stick with the session today and stay through to the questions and answers, because we are sure that you will have some questions that come up for you. And finally, if you'd like to see the presentation transcribed into a different language, you can activate the Show Captions button on your Zoom screen and then choose the language that you prefer. And you should see the words translated into the language of your choice. All right, so with that, I would normally be handing you over to one of our high school principals, and I will soon do that, but one of our high school principals, Seema Desai, head of our principal at our Dover campus, is unfortunately away today, but she has an opening message for all of you. And so I will play this brief message from Seema first, and then I will play a glimpse of life in our high schools on both campuses. Those are two short videos. And then I'll hand you to Damien Bachu, our principal at East Campus for the high school, right after those videos. So enjoy these 3 quick videos, and then it'll be over to Damien for the live presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Seema Desai, and I have the privilege of serving as the high school principal at Uwcsea Dover. I'm really sorry to not be able to be with you in person for this webinar, but I know that our high school leadership team has put together a fantastic presentation, and they're looking forward to sharing their insights with you and answering your questions in the Q&A session at the end of this webinar. So a little bit about me. I've been at Uwcsea for 4 years, and one of the things I value most about being the high school principal is seeing our students grow into compassionate, confident young people who are ready to make a really positive difference in our world. So today's webinar will give you a closer look at our high school program and the incredible people and systems that support our students to become not only successful learners, but also engaged, thoughtful global citizens. So I'll be handing over to Damien and the rest of the high school leadership team shortly. But before that, I'd like to share a short video with you that will help set the stage for today's webinar. So thank you once again for joining us, and I hope to see as many of you as possible in our in-person open days at the end of this week.
So a glimpse of life on our Dover campus, and then right after that on our East campus in the high school. I hope you enjoyed those little glimpses into life at our high school, in our high school communities. And now it's my very great pleasure to introduce you to Damien Bachu, our principal over at our East Campus. Welcome, Damien. Over to you.
Hi there. Thank you, Malika. I love those videos. They're so funky. I think the music's great. Anyway, my name's Damien Bachu. I'm the high school principal over at East. You've met Seema over at Dover, and we're so pleased to have you join us today. We know many of you are beaming in from all parts of the world, and it's just so exciting to be able to meet you. There is a team here. You're going to hopefully meet some of them today. You might meet Kate, who's our VP for grades 9 and 10, and Ted, who's our vice principal for grades 11 and 12, and Gemma, who's our vice principal and IB coordinator. That's our East High School leadership team. And we've also got on the next screen, and Seema has asked me to introduce her team as well. So Seema, you saw in the video, and Izumi supported Seema's supported by Azumi and Gemma and Andrew and Pippa. And we're going to meet with Andrew, who's the VP IB coordinator today, and also with Pippa, who looks at the curriculum, and we'll be working through that today as well. So quite excited to introduce the teams to you today as well. The next slide, please. One of the things that when I joined UWC about 5 years ago was I wasn't quite aware of how big the UWC movement is, and I find it quite exciting to be part of a larger movement than just us. You'll see on this map down on the in the middle there with Singapore. One of those, that's us, Southeast Asia, on 2 campuses. But look around the world and you'll see that there are actually 18 United World Colleges. So people who join the school are also joining a global movement. And what that means and feels like is actually part of the energy of being here. Next slide. And one of the things that we're all here for across those 18 colleges is this wonderful mission that we all rally behind, which is to make education a force to unite people, nations, and cultures for peace and a sustainable future. And that's something that we hold very dear. It's something that the whole movement and those more around the world hold quite dear. And we hope that as people come to join our community, they begin to feel that this is what holds us together and keeps us thriving together. Next slide. And we haven't just been doing this for a few years. We've been doing this for quite a long time. And this is back in 1977. This is over on the Dover campus. And you can see how the education landscape has changed over the years. And as a college committed to educational excellence, will continue to change in the future, but always going back and uniting under that mission. Next slide. People are quite reassured. They know when they're having a UWC SEA education that it is obviously very good, but we also make sure that we're properly accredited, and we're delighted to work with many accreditors to make sure that what we're offering here is indeed as world-class as we know it to be. So CIS will, for example, accredit schools from all around the world and provide a benchmark as a school independently to say how wonderfully we're doing or areas for improvement. The same with the WASC. But we also have our IB results. We do a lot of internal quality assurance. And we work quite closely as well as with the IB, because we're an IB World School. So all of these things are important to us in making sure that we're offering the education that we want to. So that's that part done. Let me go to the next slide, because a lot of our presentation today is going to be preoccupied with explaining what our learning program is about. And this simple looking circle actually is less simple than it first meets the eye. And what you'll notice around the learning program in the middle are 5 components or 5 elements. You'll notice academics at the top there. Moving around to the right, you'll see activities, then outdoor education, personal and social education, and then service. So 5 elements of a learning program. And that all feeds into what we call a holistic education model, where each of those 5 elements contribute significantly to the type of education that's worked so well for us over 50 years. So as part of the presentation, we're actually going to take you and walk you through each of the 5 areas. Now, they're all equally important, but the academics does take the most amount of time. And so what you'll notice through the presentation here, as we take you through the academics to start with, is that there's a lot to take in. So work with us, and then I will then come back in after the academic section to talk you through the activities, outdoor ed, PSE, and the service. So I'm going to actually hand over now to Pippa, who's going to talk us through some academics.
Thank you, Damien, and I'm delighted to be here today. I'm Pippa Haley, Vice Principal over here on Dover campus. The academics, of course, are the bread and butter of any school, and it's of the utmost importance But the approach to academics varies from school to school, and this is where the UWC-SEA difference becomes very apparent. So what does learning look like at UWC-SEA? Next slide, please. I think if you were to ask any teacher that question, they would say, amongst others, these three things. Firstly, that our learning should deliver mission-aligned courses that allow us to live our UWC values. Courses that develop our mission competencies and courses that support the diverse needs of our student body. We also want to ensure that learning is based on a concept-based curriculum that's deliberately designed to encourage a deep understanding of those concepts through inquiry. We want our students to be able to apply and transfer their understanding to real-life relevant situations. We want to foster collaboration, problem-solving skills, and critical thinking. These are all fabulous skills that we want our students to develop and be confident in when they leave us. And finally, of course, it's essential that our learning programme should prepare students for their study in grades 11 and 12, whether it's the full IB diploma programme, which it is for over 330 students every year, or IB courses, which amply fulfil the needs of some of our students. So with these three elements in mind, let's take a brief look at our academic journey in grade 9 and 10, and then we'll look at 11 and 12. Next slide, please. To understand our innovation journey in education, it's important to understand the history of the GCSEs and IGCSEs. So let's spend just a few brief minutes on this now. If there are any of you joining us today who happen to be in a UK secondary school or high school in the 1980s, this generic 80s high school photo might feel very nostalgic. It certainly does for me. The IGCSE was introduced in the UK back in 1986 as a way of standardising secondary education for 16-year-olds across the UK. The IGCSE, the International GCSE, was introduced 2 years later in 1988. Its job at that time was to provide an internationally recognised qualification for British students in secondary schools overseas. The curriculum was designed to offer a broad and balanced education across core subjects such as English, maths and science, along with humanities, language and the arts. The idea was students acquire knowledge and skills in these subjects, which then prepared them either for further study, A-levels for example, or for entering the workforce, which some students did then at the age of 16 to pursue either work or an apprenticeship. So it has a long history, and our students certainly did well in those IGCSEs in the past. However, the reality was that the old-style GCSE examination model presented us with a few challenges. Firstly, the IGCSEs follow a fixed curriculum that doesn't always resonate with our diverse student community and are only infrequently reviewed and updated. This fixed content doesn't really allow us to explore current world events and contexts that our students may find more engaging and relevant. They're simply not flexible in that way. The IGCSEs are largely written to prepare students for A-levels within the UK. They've not been developed to be conceptual or promote transfer between disciplines. In fact, the rigid disciplinary focus of the IGCSEs makes it harder to incorporate interdisciplinary work and building cross-course connections. And in preparation for the IB, we also saw some significant challenges. The IB itself is, and has been for some time, moving to a much more conceptual approach in its courses, and we really need to prepare our students for this. The IGCSE exams also don't always reflect the breadth of IB assessment that we need to prepare students for. And of course, there's one more very important factor as we look to the future, and that's the future of GCSEs themselves. Next slide, please. There's a growing debate, not only within the UK, but globally, about the future relevance of GCSEs. Students no longer leave school at 16, so a leaving certificate at this age is seen as redundant. Many politicians and well-known schools are rethinking the traditional GCSE model, with a number going ahead to create their own courses as alternatives. So with these challenges in mind, our commitment to innovation in education and our desire to focus on the future, we moved ahead to create our 9-10 programme. The 9-10 programme was developed through a rigorous 5-year process guided by our Directors of Teaching and Learning, the College Head of Curriculum and Research, along with the high school leadership teams. The process integrated data, insights, and feedback from a number of sources, including our students and international school research. The course developers had some very clear aims. First and foremost, to ensure the programme is mission-aligned and concept-based. We wanted a programme that encouraged a deeper understanding of the content, not just rote learning facts. And so in order to achieve that, immersive learning and a concept-based approach were an integral part of the course development. In keeping with our entire holistic learning approach from kindergarten to grade 12, the curriculum needed to be both disciplinary and promote interdisciplinary skills and concepts across the programme as a whole. Meaningful assessment was also a crucial piece of this development process. Again, moving away from rigid high-stakes exam-based assessment to include a range of different assessment options through which students could demonstrate their understanding, and a holistic approach to grading, which Kate will go through in more detail later in this presentation. All of these ultimately lead to 2 further very important aims of the programme: to support student agency and students' feelings of well-being and belonging. Delivering on these aims is fundamental to the success of the programme. These aims translate into some very clear benefits for our students. The programme is more mission-aligned than ever before. There's flexibility and choice for students to shape their high school experience and explore subjects that they're really interested in. There's more real-world, hands-on learning experiences where they can connect what they learn in class to the world around them in practical and tangible ways. It makes learning much more relevant and fun as well. More varied assessment, which is also more aligned to the IB diploma, which assesses students in different ways and in different situations. For example, projects and assignments designed for real-world scenarios and real-world application, which make it more relevant both in Singapore and in a global context. So all those benefits sound fabulous. But what exactly can my child study, I hear you ask? It's a great question, so let's take a look. The design of the Grade 9-10 learning programme, as you can see here, has exactly the same focus on all 5 elements as our overarching holistic curriculum throughout the college: academics, activities, outdoor education, and personal and social education and service. Within this programme, there are 2 core elements, and you can see them here in the inner orange circle: Uwcsea perspectives and Wellbeing and Physical Education, or PE. Moving out again, we have the subject domains, shown here in the grey ring. There are 6 of these, and they are English, mathematics, science and technology, humanities, art and design, and an additional language. The holistic education programme is finally wrapped up in the programme aims that we've already talked about: mission-aligned design, immersive learning experiences, and of course, student agency. To dive into these areas a little more, I'll hand over now to Kate.
Morning all, thanks Pippa. Really nice to meet you here today. I'm going to take us into some of the detail of the 9-10 programme and what your child's learning programme might look like in practical terms. So students joining in grades 9 and 10 will follow 10 one-year courses. All students take part in a 1-year UWC Perspectives course, as well as a wellbeing and a physical education programme, wellbeing also being known as PSE or personal social education, and these form the core of the grade 9-10 programme. Also, all students will study English, which includes both language and literature, and maths and science in grades 9 and 10. Following this, their choices are guided to include another language, a humanities subject, and an arts or design subject, which will leave them with 2 additional choices, which can come from any of the previous subject domain areas. All courses have been specifically designed to be 1 year, and this means that if grade 9 students want to change some of their subject choices in grade 10, they can. This, of course, comes back to our programme aim of giving students much greater choice, flexibility, and agency. Of course, we also know that many students will enjoy their courses in grade 9 so much that they'll happily continue with them through to grade 10, and that's absolutely fine. It's having the choice and the opportunities for wider experiences, should they want them, that are important. And with their different content, the grade 10 courses are open and accessible to any student. Next slide, please. Before we look at some potential student course options, I just want to touch briefly on the UWC Perspectives course, as this is one of the compulsory core courses for all students currently or new, and it is unique to UWC SEA. Essentially, it's a 1-year course which addresses what it means to be a UWC student who seeks multiple and diverse perspectives in order to think both critically and empathetically in service to and enactment of the UWC mission. It's grounded in our mission competencies, which you can see here. Competencies in interpersonal and intercultural understanding, peace building, sustainable development, self and community well-being, and essential literacies, including the critical thinking skills that students will need to navigate the IB diploma core curriculum, which includes the IB's theory of knowledge and extended essay. Next slide, please. So here's an example package over 2 years for a student joining in grade 9. Along with the core subjects, they are, as an English speaker, doing first language English and also studying French as their foreign language choice. It's worth noting that most students will maintain their choice of language through grades 9 and 10 to ensure that they have the strongest possible language foundation for IB. As all students must, they're studying mathematics, but clearly they're very interested in maths because they've also chosen to do the Maths Plus course, a course that goes wider and deeper into the discipline as one of their free choices. For their second free choice, this student has chosen to do the Science Plus course in addition to the science course that is followed by everybody. Please note that our science courses are coordinated science courses, meaning they cover elements of all 3 of the experimental sciences, biology, chemistry, and physics, with the option to take just 1 or 2 of these sciences in grade 10. In humanities, you can see they've decided to do geography, and for their arts and design choice, they've chosen music. You can see there that in grade 10, they're continuing with their Maths and Science Plus courses, but because they've already done UWC Perspectives in grade 9, they now have another free choice, and in this instance, they've decided to add in computer science in grade 10. Interestingly, they've changed their humanities option in grade 10 to history and their art and design option to film, so they really are getting a broad exposure to a number of courses before they make subject choice decisions for grade 11 and the IB. Just to give another couple of examples of ways in which students can develop areas of special interest, those who love the arts could enjoy the opportunity to select visual art, film and music, for example, or a budding linguist could choose to study their home language, a foreign language, alongside English. Most of our students have a whole spectrum of varied interests underpinned by the programme structure and a firm foundation in each of the subject discipline areas. Here's another example of students developing areas of special interest. This student clearly loves the arts, selecting drama, along with visual arts and dance as their 2 free choices. Equally, a budding linguist then might choose to study their home language and a foreign language. That whole spectrum there of varied interests, firmly underpinned. We've got one last example on the next slide. This is a student for whom English is an additional language. As this student's confidence in English is still developing, they've been directed to select EAL, English as an additional language, which will require additional time in order to support the development of their academic English and their communication in all of their subjects. So this will require one of their 2 free choices. Whilst this student has indicated English as an additional language for both grade 9 and 10, it may well be that their language proficiency develops sufficiently by grade 10 for them to move to first language English, meaning they'll have a further free choice for grade 10. I hope that these examples give you a flavour of the types of student interest profiles that we see and how students might structure their course options. But of course, the possible combinations are endless. Giving students choice and flexibility in course selection in grades 9 and 10 is really important to us, and we structure our timetable to enable as many combinations as possible. There are many options for students, and we encourage you to go to the college website to take a look at the 9-10 course offerings. Next slide, thank you. In keeping with this, our aim is to provide meaningful and authentic assessment that is not only developmentally appropriate and directly connected to the learning goals of the unit and course, but which is supportive of student agency wherever possible. And so assessment takes a variety of forms, from presentations and essays to projects and examinations. We want to prepare students for the kind of assessment experiences they'll also undertake in the IB, and that is very much about conceptual understanding, as Pippa indicated before, and transfer, rather than rote learning and regurgitation. So as an example, as an English literature and language teacher myself, I know that the IB exam questions are conceptually challenging, asking critically comparative and evaluative questions about craft, context, and conventions, and even the purposes of literature more broadly. So it's not enough for our students to memorize and repeat some character and theme quotations from each of the 3 exam texts. They also need to understand that a persuasive interpretation relies on their ability to choose and use examples in a discerning and agile manner so that they can transfer their knowledge of the text and their essay skills to any question that they get. The English course of the 9-10 programme, like all of our courses, begins to equip students with the knowledge, skills and conceptual understanding required for this type of challenge, as reflected in our written curriculum. Next slide, please. So here's an example from our 9-10 maths curriculum of knowledge, skills and understanding that we teach and assess. In this case, the conceptual understanding is about the relationship between probability modelling and future behaviours. To develop this understanding, students need to attain and practice a specific set of mathematical knowledge and skills as detailed in the blue parts. By understanding why they're learning it beyond a specific maths task or question, as expressed in the conceptual understanding in green above, they'll be able to transfer what they know and what they can do to less familiar and new situations. And so it's this intellectual agility that we wish to develop in our students. I hope that gives you a helpful outline of our 9-10 programme and of the important principles and values that underpin its vigour and future readiness. I'm going to hand over now to Andrew, who's going to speak about grades 11 and 12.
Thank you, Kate. My son has actually just joined grade 9 this August and has really enjoyed that degree of choice and also the challenge in terms of his package to do with it. I'm going to speak on behalf of the Dover and East Campus about our high school program. I'll begin by talking about some of the academics for grade 11 and 12. So we'll go to the next slide, please. So at UWC-SEA, our high school students work towards our high school diploma. And a high school diploma recognises our students' holistic contributions across the 5 elements of our learning program. So that can include going on expeditions and trips, it can include their involvement in service, and it recognises their contributions across their 2 years of the high school. And the diploma provides them with access to study after UWC as well. Leading into a high school diploma, there's 2 academic kind of pathways that students can choose to pursue to fulfill the needs of our high school diploma. So for some students, we'll pursue what's called the IB courses of study. So they'll choose a very sort of personalized program between 4 and 6 subjects that really align to what they want to study after their time here with us at UWC. The other group of our students, so the majority of our students will study what's called the IB diploma. So that's the option where they're studying 6 subjects, but they're also fulfilling the needs of the core elements of the IB program as well that I'll talk about. So either of those 2 options can fulfill the needs of a high school diploma and provide students with the excellent kind of background and skills to pursue life after UWC. Go next slide, thank you. So on the side of the screen is that visual that Damien talked about in terms of our learning program. So when we talk about academics in high school, you'll see a lot of the examples that were in those earlier videos of students really immersed in their learning, looking at lots of the practical applications. There was examples of students in sports science, measuring performances and analysing skills. So there's a lot of immersive and experimental learning that I think brings the academic program to life. For some students that are studying IB courses, it's an opportunity to develop a really tailored and flexible package of subjects to support them with their study after UWC. And we work really closely with the university advising team to make sure that it's meeting the requirements of studying in different nations. It doesn't have the same stringent requirements of, say, a full IB diploma. So some students will perhaps might do one of the extended essays, might fulfill the needs of doing the high-level subjects. But we work really carefully to develop a program for some students that want to pursue this option of study with us. Next slide. The IB diploma program is the program which the majority of our students will pursue across both of our high schools. It's a program that is incredibly well recognized globally, and it's a program that we as a school have focused on at Dover campus kind of since our beginning in the 1970s. And this graphic represents the structure of the IB program and its core components. And you'll see plenty of parallels to how it is aligned with our grade 9 and 10 program as well. So sitting at the core of the program are three elements which I think distinguishes the IB from other national curriculums around the world. So students here will study what's called theory of knowledge, which is one class a week. They'll pursue and write what's called like a mini thesis on a personal area of interest called their extended essay. And they'll also pursue and develop their skills across their creative skills, pursuing a physical activity, and also contributions to service that make up what's called CAS and the requirements for the IB diploma. Then alongside this, students will study 6 subjects from these range of areas, which are closely aligned to what we offer in grades 9 and 10 as well. Next slide. So theory of the knowledge is one of the cornerstones of the IB diploma program that encourages our students to think really critically about knowledge itself, how we acquire it, how we validate, and how we apply knowledge in all of our subjects. It provides a really important space for our students to make interdisciplinary connections, to bring in some of their knowledge from, say, history or mathematics, and challenge and think around some of the assumptions of how knowledge is created in those subjects. It's a subject as well where we encourage students to think kind of really ethically and to think about some of the presumptions and perspectives that exist as an academic. But it's also a space where students get to develop the skills which they apply in other subjects, those critical thinking and reflection skills as well. So in essence, TOK is more of a course. It's a way of thinking that permeates our high school experience. And it builds on a lot of the work that Kate talked about in our UWC Perspectives course in grade 9 as well. Next slide. The extended essay is one of the other 3 aspects that sit at the core of the program. It's a journey of inquiry. It's a journey where students choose a personal area of interest that connects with one of their academic subjects. And they write sort of up to 4,000 words, a little mini thesis, doing like what's called like a fairly original piece of research in an area of interest. We buddy them up with a supervisor. So this morning I was meeting with one of my economics students and talking him through his process and helping him through with his research. And it's a really lovely kind of project for students to really sort of double down and explore in areas of intellectual interest to them as well. Next slide. Thank you. Creativity, activity, and service is the elements of the program that links really closely to our school's mission and the elements of our learning program as well. So it's designed to strengthen and extend our students' skills, both at a really kind of personal level, the skills they're developing, to developing their creative skills. So this could be for some students, this is developing a passion for, say, like photography and developing those skills over the 2 years. Could be involved in being involved in school productions, learning an instrument, any of those types of skills that students develop as well. Students through our high school, we also work towards some sort of physical activity. So it can be a team sport, involvement with friends and getting involved in an activity, or it can be involved in any sort of high performance sport as well. And in our school, we offer a huge range of those activities, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And the final bit that sits at the center of the IB program is the commitment to service. So the idea that students are working really collaboratively with some of our service partners, both locally in Singapore, but also across Southeast Asia, and kind of really clearly understanding and reflecting on the power of that opportunity for them as well. So the other part of the IB diploma is obviously the academics. It's the subjects which students choose to study. So students across the 2 years of the diploma will study 6 subjects, 3 of which they study at what's called a higher level. So those are subjects which they will study, and they have that class 3 times a week, both covering a subject in a greater range, of a greater breadth, but also in a greater depth of understanding. And they also study 3 subjects at what's called a standard level. And those subjects together make up their sort of their package of subjects and their timetable here at UWC. You can also see from the bottom of this graphic, there's a course which is really interdisciplinary in nature, and it's drawing from multiple groups. This is our Systems Transformation Leadership for Change course, which we began last year with our students. It's an opportunity for students actually to replace 2 of their standard level subject options, and is a course which has been developed in collaboration with the International Baccalaureate. And we're really excited to offer this as a school, and kind of as a unique opportunity both within Singapore and Southeast Asia to offer this course. As a note as well, many of our teachers have very close ties with the International Baccalaureate. As a school, we've been a partner for them for many years. In fact, around 25% of our high school teachers across our campuses can be involved as IB exam markers. Some of them are principal examiners working with other colleagues across the world. And we have teachers as well who visit schools and are workshop leaders. So we have an incredible depth of understanding of what it means to teach and to access and to support students through their studies across grades 11 and 12. We have other teachers involved in textbook writing, involved in curriculum development across different subjects across the world. And so we're really proud to continue to partner and to develop our work with the International Baccalaureate as one of their leading schools around the world. So to speak a little bit more specifically about the systems transformation course, I've just got a little bit of a video to give you a little bit of context. So this is Olli-Pekka Heinonen, who is the Director General of the International Baccalaureate. And he visited our school last year and met with some of our students to learn more about the course.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm in grade 11. I'm a systems transformation student, and I'm really excited to talk to you today. Could you tell me why the IB is piloting the systems transformation pathway? What is the long game?
Well, we're piloting with 4 schools in different parts of the world, like this school here, United World College, Southeast Asia, for the reason that we see that the world is changing. Learning is about the connection between the learner and the world. Mm-hmm. And when the world changes, also the relationship between the learner and the world changes. And for that reason, we want to learn how this kind of an approach, which differs from the traditional subject approach, would be more useful for students, more motivating, and also enable such competencies that are really needed in the world in solving the big challenges like sustainability and peace of the world.
Thank you. So systems transformation is a course which is incredibly aligned to our mission and and hopefully one of the reasons you're considering us as a school for your child. Our mission is very much around the role of education to unite people, nations, and cultures for peace and a sustainable future. And so this course is a really flagship opportunity for our students to think really carefully about those issues, looking at practical applications and then developing their skills to be a change maker. So as you can see from the graphic, it's an opportunity for some students to take a slightly different combination of subjects to do with this. So in each campus, we have 2 classes of students that are studying this option, and it's been an option that some of our students have wanted to pursue to do with this as well. It's a course which is developing them as change makers for the future, and we're very fortunate to be one of 4 schools globally that are able to offer this course. And it builds really nicely on our development across grade 9 with our UWC Perspectives course. And it's taking some of those skills further to develop them in terms of their IB diploma. The next slide, thank you. So it's a unique course in 3 ways. Its curriculum is really future orientated. So you can see from the graphic, some of the skills it talks about are things that we are looking to develop for students as they move to careers and work after UWC. So it's got 5 different strands you can see. And so through project-based learning, our students will explore, connect, and lead others to understand how to navigate really complex systems, how to be resilient and adaptable in the face of challenges and failures they might face. So the course has both sort of taught content, so students will learn, like in all of our IB subjects, will learn some of those knowledges, the knowledge and skills that underpins the subjects. Like other IB subjects as well, they'll pursue lots of inquiry. So some of it will be really teacher guided, looking at case studies and examples. They're provided with lots of deep dive opportunities to develop specific skills, be it like presentation skills, understanding how to work in teams, team dynamics. And the course is unique. It's assessed via coursework, so it's very similar to Group 6 in the arts subjects, but it's assessed by coursework, and there's no formal exam for this subject. And it's a mixture of things which are marked by our teachers, but also externally assessed by the IBO as well. So students who wish to study this course, it just takes the place of 2 of their standard level class options for that as well. And so it carries the same recognition for universities, and it contributes towards their 45 points in the same way that their other subjects do as well. Students as well have the same connections to TOK, CAS, and the extended essay, and they pursue those studies in a similar manner to all their peers. And it's a course that we're kind of really proud to be able to offer into the future as well. So just to wrap up my little piece before I pass across to Gemma. So students across grade 11 and 12 can choose sort of 2 different options within their IB diploma. So for many students, they'll study a 6-subject IB diploma, and they've got the option of studying 3 higher levels, 3 standard levels, and then fulfilling the core elements. And then we're also very proud to be part of this pilot, which allows students to have a little bit more a little bit more flexibility and choice in developing a really unique package of subjects they would like to pursue in the future. And this involves them studying 3 higher levels, 1 standard level, and then taking the systems transformation course as well, both leading them to be awarded the IB diploma in the end as well. So I'll finish there and I'll pass across to Gemma to talk more about the grade 11 and 12 program.
Thanks, Andrew. Well done for making it this far, everybody. In this final section on our academic programme, I'm going to speak a little bit about results and also, I hope, provide a little bit of context that might be helpful to you when you're looking between different schools and what they have on offer. So Andrew has shared with you a couple of things that make our IB diploma programme here quite unique. One of them being systems transformation and being only one of 4 schools in the world that are at the moment offering that particular pathway. And the other being the depth of expertise in our teachers. And just for me personally, having taught in the UK at the first IB diploma state school, and then taught in Switzerland at the first IB school there, the International School of Geneva, I have never worked with colleagues of the calibre that I get to work with here. So just as a teacher, it's such an extraordinary place to be. So on this slide, you can see one of the other things that makes our diploma offering a little bit exceptional. And you may already have started to have a sense of this as you've heard my colleagues speak through those options. And that's just the breadth of courses that we have on offer, which is really quite unusual. So if you cast your eye over to the left hand of this slide to start with, you will see, starting at the bottom there in the orange, as you move through the school, across the college, the number of different courses and languages that we are able to offer. And in our IB programme, that means upwards of 40 different IB subjects offered at higher and at standard level, as Andrew was just explaining, which really is a very unique opportunity for students to tailor a package around their interests and around their aspirations. And also then, as they're looking to take their next steps, to be able to present themselves with a package that really speaks to who they are as a learner, their strengths and their interests. Another piece then that that makes us stand out from other schools, and we know that this is a way that people often look to make comparisons between schools, is to look at our IB diploma results. Now, what you will learn about us as a college is results are rarely the headline that we lead with. Damien told you about that big, ambitious mission that unites all of our work and that filters through really everything that we do. And academic ambition and achievement is a key part of that. We also know that it can be misleading sometimes when we're looking at making comparisons. So I just want to contextualize some of that for you. So one of those pieces that you can see on this slide is just the extraordinary size of our cohort. We are the largest IB diploma cohort of our kind in the world, and dwarf by quite some way the average cohort size of just 55 students. Now, size is not kind of a virtue necessarily in and of itself, but what it does mean is that our cohort brings an extraordinary degree of diversity, not just in terms of student backgrounds, but in terms of interests, passions, and means that everybody here really finds their people and finds a group that they belong with, and also finds a group of people who are going to push them to be the very best that they can be. We also have about a quarter of our students who achieve a very prestigious bilingual IB diploma, meaning that they've completed at least parts of their diploma package in 2 home languages, or what the IB calls languages A. We have many more students beyond that who are functionally bilingual, but to have a quarter of our students who are able to achieve at such a high level and across so many languages really speaks to the ambition of our cohorts. If we click on to the next slide. So in our context here at Uwcsea, we know that those sort of headline averages can only ever at best tell a tiny part of the story. And so we're thinking all the time about how we kind of bring some more nuance and context to that, and to help people understand what results actually mean and to make sense of them. So just to give you a little bit more of that context here, if you look at the left-hand side image in the grey circle around the outside, you'll see this year's global average. So that's the average IB diploma score. And then as we move inwards, you'll see the average of our cohorts as a college. And then we wanted just to sort of contextualize this in relation to more normal cohort sizes. So if we come inwards and we look at our top 100 Uwcsea students, you'll see an IB diploma average of 43.3. And if we come even closer to the average cohort size of 50 students, you'll see an average of 44. So what this and the image just next to it just help to show are really the inclusivity and breadth of our cohorts, and that we are proud to support and celebrate every one of these students, and the student who has worked incredibly hard to achieve an IB diploma with 26, 27 points, as well as the scorers up into the 40s. Let's dig in a little bit more then to this idea of comparison, which is uncomfortable ground for us. I'll be honest, as I say, it's not the headline that we ever go out with, but we know that it is one of the ways that families are looking to understand IB schools who might offer similar programs in some ways, but seem to have quite different results. And it's important to know the ways in which that comparison can be misleading. So if we look over on the left-hand side, these are the statistics from our graduating class this year, and we've just seen a little bit of that. A few pieces just to draw your attention to. So you'll have noticed in this presentation, we don't run parallel programs to our IB courses and IB diploma. We also do not set sort of entry requirements for particular courses or grades that we expect before we will allow students access onto the IB diploma. And that is really quite unusual. And it means that when we report our diploma results, they really are inclusive of almost all our students, excepting the ones who've chosen to study those courses rather than the full IB diploma. In our average score, we will include students, even those few sometimes who for various reasons don't attain the full diploma. And that's very different to the context of some other schools. So on the right-hand side here, we've got, again, the same graduating class from another Singapore school, but a more kind of usual context here, I suppose. So with an IB diploma cohort of 60, this school is much closer to the global average. And this is a school which, unlike us, runs a parallel program taken by the majority of its students. And as is quite normal in this particular school, students must demonstrate attainment in particular subjects before teachers will sign off on them being able to take those subjects as part of their diploma. So the results that you can see on the left-hand side are including not just a lot more students, but a lot more sort of breadth of interest and attainment. On to the next slide then. And of course, there are many different ways that we could slice statistics and different perspectives we could take, but perhaps this gives us a more like-for-like comparison. So in English, we have this saying of comparing apples and oranges, two things that are too different to be able to make meaningful comparisons. So this gives us a different way of looking at those results. So if we as a college were to take our top 60 IB performers from this year's graduating class, this is what you would see on the left-hand side. So the average score of those 60 students would be 44 out of 45 points, with 110 students achieving above 42 and 151 bilingual diplomas. Of course, there are other ways that different comparisons that we could make, but it's worth just taking into account some of that context if you're looking at IB results as a way of selecting your school. We know that our results here are something that we are very proud of, all of them, and that they speak to the ambition of all of our students here. Okay, I'm going to pass back over now to Damien, who's going to come back to that bigger picture of the 5-element learning program.
Thanks, Gemma. Yeah, I've re-put up that circle again because we started with it and then we've spent a fair amount of the presentation around the academics, and yet I started with the presentation around 5 elements. So I'm going to go just gently through the other 4 elements right now, and then sort of try to make the point in the short time we have left that these are all part of what makes the results that Gemma shared there so successful. Obviously, there'll be those who will be thinking if we just focused on one element, then all the magic would happen and that would be all that's required. But that's not our theory. Our theory sits within a holistic program that allows people to really engage with that mission, but to really thrive in a way that shows off and allow people to grow, and particularly as they're applying for universities, it seems to be a different sort of student that we are able to help grow here. So what are some of those elements? Let's go back to the next slide, and it's starting with the personal and social education. In order to be our best selves, we need to pay attention to ourselves and our social and emotional learning. We do that in different ways. Next slide. One of those is that we build a team around each of our students. We have a dedicated team who are working either in well-being, in counselling. We have mentors. And we have very, very distinctive wellbeing principles where we think carefully about how we can make sure that each person thrives here. So there's a large element of thinking about how we can help the learner thrive here. Next, please. We're trying to think about how we build a community here. And this lovely picture here is an example of some high schoolers and infants working together in our buddy program, because we don't just want people here in a classroom. We want them to feel what it's like to be part of a thriving community. And again, this is part of our thinking around personal and social and growth and education. Next slide. Service is what many here believe is the heart of what it is to be a UWC student. And we try and develop a mindset in each of our students that is about how do we contribute to the mission. We're not just here at school just to be, we want young people here to be growing an awareness of themselves and how they can contribute to the mission and the world around them. So we help them with that. We stage opportunities for them to join activities where teachers can facilitate and ask questions, but also give students an opportunity to lead or think differently outside of the classroom. If I think to my kids in service, my own, I've got 3 children here. I've got one of them who has had quite a transformational experience supporting a group that visits a local disability centre each week. Been quite awesome discussions actually about why and what is going on there and what that means to them and how they feel about that, and the growth around that's quite interesting. I've got another who spends his lunchtimes fixing old computers to see if they can be refashioned to pass on to schools that maybe don't have computers. And that's quite an exciting activity to be talking around at home. And I've got another who is working in sustainability at the moment and with a group is working out how water propagation systems are working. And on our 6th floor, we have some gardening and propagation systems where he's quite excited about that. So dinner is never dull in my house. Services is really, really a huge element of what it is to be here. Next slide. And the next one, please. Thank you. And what you'll notice here, again, building on that idea of choice here at the college, there's no shortage of choice. And we talk about that being an element of distinction around the college, in that we have our young people able to choose how they want to serve and what that looks like. It's not always the same. And you'll see here some vast numbers and ways and people can get involved. And I've just explained how my 3 get involved. Let's go to the next slide. So I've mentioned service and now activities, and both for service and activities, all students have to make options. So it's not something that you can choose to not do. All of our students are expected to do that. And again, it looks different for everyone. And what we believe is that there's vital skills that are developed outside of the classroom. So with the choices and activities, you can see on the screen here that they're all banded into different bands, and there's so much choice in each of those, whether it's art and design, music, leadership, the representative sports, of course, and then home language, etc. So again, I've got my own experience, my own kid. I've got circus at home, netball, model United Nations, theatre, boxing, Lego robotics, ceramics. We've had a good go. It's very exciting for them. Next slide, and next slide again. Thanks. And you get a feel for a snapshot here and the amount of activity going on. If you just look at the breadth of what's on offer, and then also the amount of investment in time and hours that our students and children here really put in. And then to my final part of the learning element, which is next slide, is outdoor education. Again, this looks different for different grades. And what I would say is that a lot of our alumni, when they look back at their time in UWC, will often talk about their experiences in outdoor education as being some of the most exciting times of their life here. In grade 9, students and new grade 10s, they get to participate in a huge and exciting program of outdoor education choices. They can choose, I think this year we had 22 locations around the region where they could go out and do some very, very exciting things, from rafting, as you see on screen here, to my kids going off and doing some climbing in China. And again, that ability to grow, to connect with nature, to understand oneself in a different environment, work with different kids and different relationships, all enhance what we think a holistic experience can offer. Next slide, please. And again. Thank you. So you're seeing a huge number of outdoor education and trips here. And one of the things I've mentioned, grade 9 and 10, in grade 11, all of our grade 11 students have the opportunity to participate in a project week as well. So again, all the way through the high school, there are opportunities for exciting trips. I am going to pass on now to Ted, Vice Principal for grade 11 and 12.
Thank you, Damien. I believe I'm the last in the long line of speakers here today. I appreciate your patience through all this. I'll be quick. I believe that makes me the headliner for the show. But I'm going to touch on a couple of things on how we support students beyond the classroom and after they leave us, or on their journey and transition out of leaving UWC. So the first one, which most people are interested in, is just about the university advising team that we have. We'll be looking at how they take the next steps, the students do, and who helps guide them. So if we can go to the next slide, we've got a great photo of our, sorry, the next one is our slide. We'll go back to that path is not linear one first. As adults, we know that the path is not linear. Students, not necessarily the same, because they feel that it's going to be quite linear. They're going to go to school, then they're going to pick the career they want, and they're going to go to university for that, and then end up in that career. And we know as adults that that's not the case. Many students today end up in jobs that haven't even been invented yet, or often will switch careers 4 or 5 times before they're even 30 years old. And so the question that we have to ask ourselves is, how do we make sure we're preparing our students for those experiences in the uncertain future? They obviously have the technical and the academic skills that they develop through grade 11 and grade 12 in their courses, but we also want to instill all of those 21st century skills that span all of the careers and lay the foundation for success within employment and for other aspects of life, so that they can then navigate with those transferable skills for a variety of different experiences. And to help us with that, now we can go to the next slide, are our 2 UAC teams, the University Advising Center teams. You can see our Dover ones on the left and East on the right. A fantastic team that work mainly with grade 11 and 12 students and helping them make their decisions after life at UWC. We do hold a career fair once a year with over 50 professions being represented. We have university fairs, and also a number of university visits on both campuses. There's plenty of opportunities for real world experience through our internship program. And we've already jumped to the next slide, which is the careers program that we have, where our internship program is embedded, but we also use the power of our community to support all of the students who are currently with us, our alumni, our parents, our partners in a range of different industries. We're able to give students access to a variety of real-world learning opportunities. It might include something like company visits. We've had students go and visit the Asian Development Bank and Google, and there's also a mentoring program that's set up for them. Next slide, please. Here you can see a few, some of the data around internships, number of students that participated from our 2025 graduating class, and where some of them went. And after all of that, next slide, please, they graduate. And we have the luxury and the privilege of being able to use a beautiful venue down at Hobie Auditorium in the National University of Singapore to run this event in May every year. Next slide, please. Quick look at where students go for university. So our 600 plus students attend college and university in a number of different countries around the world, which also then creates a massive alumni network to help support them through and beyond university. And our next slide. We have some incredible connections with our community, which continue long after they leave us. And of course, the alumni are one of those big reasons. We have over 25,000 across, as you can see, 147 different countries, incredible connections with our community. And it just goes to show that UWC-SEA is more than just the buildings for us. It's about the people and the connections that we have around the world. Next slide. I just want to finish by saying that the journey through high school is an incredibly important one. Student well-being and building a culture of care and belonging is a key focus for us at UWC-SEA. And as the saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child. And you can see here the numerous support structures and the many, many people that are surrounding our students from K1 to grade 12 to ensure they have everything they need to survive. And one of the key people that they'll have in grade 11 and 12 is their mentor, who meets with the students every morning, delivering the students' personal and social education curriculum, monitoring their progress and well-being, and supporting them through coaching of reflection and goal setting, challenges, and some of the decision-making that they need to do throughout those 2 years. So over the course of the 2 years, the mentor classes, of course, they have a lot of fun together, they learn together, they build strong personal relationships. And we know as educators that having at least one trusted adult in the building is so important, especially in a large school like ours. But of course, each student also has a whole team of teachers, their head of grade, and all of the VPs and principals that you heard from today, dedicated to ensuring their well-being and growth through high school. So with that, I hope we found this session informative and it helps you make the right decision for your child. And what we just flipped through were a couple of field of studies pursued by the class of 2025. And I will now pass it back over to Lucy for some questions and answers. Lucy is our head of marketing and communications. Thank you very much. And we'll be here to answer some questions.
Thank you, Ted. I'm just turning my video on. Sorry, my video. There we go. Hi, there I am. Thank you so much, Ted. And thank you, Damien, Gemma, Andrew, Pippa, and poor Kate, who unfortunately is a little bit unwell today, but was able to join us for this. So we've gone a little bit over time, but I do hope that the comprehensive information that was shared in the presentation has been valuable to you all. And we have some questions that we will, from our audience, that we will try to get through as many as possible before we let you go today. So without further ado, I will just get started. And I might start with you, Pippa, since you've had a bit of a break. The first question is around UWC perspectives. Is it part of grade 9 or grade 10? And what if a child joins us in grade 10?
Okay, great question. So yes, UWC Perspectives is a one-year course and it is a core course for all of our grade 9, 10 students. So for those students who are new to us in grade 9, then they will do their UWC Perspectives course during grade 9. If we do have students that join us at the beginning of grade 10, then UWC Perspectives will become part of their core curriculum in grade 10. So what that means is that any students joining us in grade 9, once they've completed that course at the end of grade 9, then they have the opportunity to make another subject selection and explore another subject when they come through to grade 10. But all of our students, whether they join us in 9, 10, will complete that one-year course.
Terrific. Thank you, Pippa. I might just ask a few more questions around 9-10 whilst I have you, and we'll just stay in that theme for a little bit. Can you let me know, please, without the IGCSE, what qualification can a student use if they were going to leave UWC after grade 10 and perhaps go back to the UK?
Okay, so I think the key thing to realise here is that any student who's leaving us at the end of grade 10 to go back to the UK, even if they were doing IGCSEs or GCSEs, they wouldn't have the results, they wouldn't have those qualifications, they wouldn't have those results when they were applying to go back to the UK. What we do have for all of our students is their grade 9-10 transcript, which gives an outline of all of their courses that they have followed. And what that transcript shows are the report grades that your child has achieved as they've been going through grades 9 and 10. So that will outline all of the courses and how well they've done for any child that's leaving us at the end of grade 10 to potentially return to the UK.
Terrific. And thinking now about the reverse, if a child is has just completed IGCSE in a British school and is looking to join us in grade 11, will it be challenging for them to move into our IBDP program, having done the IGCSE and not done the 9-10 program?
No, not at all. We have students that join us from all sorts of different education systems all around the world. And remember that until relatively recently, IGCSEs formed our own program preparing students to go into the IB. We know as we bring students into grade 11 that we will have a range of students who've come from a range of different experiences, and all of those students will find that their learning is scaffolded and that they're supported to make that transition. So no, it's really not an issue for students who have been following an IGCSE program to come into the IBDP.
Wonderful. Thank you, Pippa. Final question around the 9-10 program. Can you just give us a very top line difference between the type of assessment models, so the IGCSE versus our 9-10 program?
Okay, so the IGCSE model largely is based on terminal examinations that occur in term 3 of grade 10. This is quite an intense period of exam hall assessments. And admittedly, while some students thrive on those final assessments, we do know that many students do prefer more opportunities in order for them to demonstrate their understanding. Not all of the IGCSE assessment is also, of course, well aligned with the IB assessment. So what we have in the grade 9-10 learning programme is a whole range of assessments that the students will complete as they go through the course, as they go through the programme. So they have multiple opportunities to demonstrate their understanding and their achievement in all of the intended learning for that particular course. The teachers then pull that together holistically in order to give them their holistic report grades that are reported on their transcript. But it does mean it's not as pressured in those by having all of their learning for the whole of 2 years assessed in those final exams.
Thank you so much, Pippa. You can have a break now. I'll move over to you, Ted. I've got a couple of questions that I'm going to ask you. The first one is around how we support students who might be PR and are required to do national service upon their graduation. I know we do have a number of our students who do national service. So how do we support them?
I think we got a couple of ways. Depends on what kind of support we're looking for. If we're looking for support to get in shape for a national service, then we've got lots of gym space here that kids can go to and utilize in their time leading up to that. But I imagine we're probably talking about university support and next stages of life support. So our university advisors are well aware of the requirements of national service and work with the students to prepare them as much as they can for their university applications before they go into the national service, and then they're in contact with them throughout that time, and they generally and usually come back and continue that support until the time at which they head off into university.
Thanks, Ted. What about students who have English as a second language? So we have a question here around what kind of support, whether it be academic, pastoral, and sort of university guidance again, is available to those students as they navigate their English language needs. So not only helping them also to make the right subject choices as they move through high school.
Yeah. So there are specific classes that will provide some additional English language support from grade 9 right through to grade 12. There's a department that will also help support outside of class time and meet with students. And again, UAC is there to have those individual conversations. Should we happen to need somebody else on campus to help with parents, there can be translators available in most languages. And mentors, students with additional EAL support are often placed with mentors who specifically train and can help with that support as well.
Great, thank you, Ted. I might point a similar language-related question, but more around the IB. So I think, who am I going to pick here? Andrew. You're up. So this is around the topic of languages. And at which point do students need to make a decision around their choice for standard level language for IB? And can they do a foreign language ab initio? What does that look like?
It's a good question as well. I think one of the big aspects of both our Greater 19 program and also the IB is that we really value that linguistic diversity, and particularly encouraging students to sort of find a language pathway and try to sort of stay with that and keep with that pathway through, for some students, both middle school, grade 9 and 10, and high school as well. So some students will stick with like a sort of a Spanish pathway in terms of their language acquisition through high school. But there is an option. So when they begin IB, there is an option for them to take what's called a beginner language, and that's for a student that doesn't have any prior experience in that language. And so at each campus, we offer like a couple of options of those beginner languages, usually for students that have dabbled a little bit with like Duolingo, but want to actually like academically study that for the 2 years to do that as well. But the main thing we think about is just around the level of challenge. So for any school globally, it's around students just choosing a language where there's an appropriate level of challenge. So for some students, that might be studying it at a higher level. For some students at a standard level, and for some students that'll study that as their first language as well.
Great, thank you, Andrew. Gemma, just a question for you around languages. Are Singapore citizens or PR students required to do Chinese SL for IB?
No, they're not. They can choose from our full range of languages at SL. They don't have the same requirements applied as in the local system.
Terrific. And whilst I have you, how is CAS in the core curriculum different to PSE activities and service?
Yeah, that's a good question. So CAS, creativity, activity and service, is a core component specific to the IB diploma. So in any IB diploma school, students are going to be completing CAS in order to be awarded the diploma. And obviously, as the acronym suggests, there's some crossover there. So our IB diploma students, their activities and their service are contributing to that component in the diploma and find themselves credited there. The IB adds an additional layer there in terms of how students are required to both document their engagement in those different elements and also to reflect on it through the lens of their own personal growth. We as a school embed those same things down through our high school. So we have an expectation of engagement in activity and service of our grade 9 students and our grade 10 students because we see that as a critical piece in developing what we call the mission competencies in our students. We want them to be able to go out in the world and enact that UWC mission. So there's a distinction there between 9, 10 and 11, 12 when it comes to activities and service. And worth noting that UWC SEA students go way beyond the IB requirement there. PSE is slightly different. So PSE stands separately. That is a taught course developed by us for our students. It is not accredited part of the IB diploma, although it is a core component of our UWC SEA high school diploma. And so that is another strand that runs through that 4-year experience from 9 to 12.
Thanks, Gemma. Just whilst we're talking about CAS, how many hours, what are the minimum hours for CAS? Do you know off the top of your
So
head?
there actually hasn't been a minimum hour requirement for CAS for several years. Even though if you're Googling, many websites will still make reference to it. It used to be 150, evenly split across the three. That is no longer an IB requirement, and it's not a requirement that we make of our students. The key part is that they're continuing through these strands, not just dipping in and out, but for CAS especially over at least an 18-month period, that they're engaging in those three strands and that they're reflecting on those experiences.
Terrific, thank you. Andrew, just back to you for a moment. What if a student is not feeling like they're academically ready at the end of year 10 to undergo the IB? Can you just give us a quick rundown of the high school diploma?
Yes, we do. We support like a number of students that obviously want to enjoy the last 2 years of their high school experience and enjoy it in such a way that we can prepare them for, the passions and projects they want to do after school. For some students that I've worked with students in the past that have wanted to study like filmmaking in the UK, or say like a physiotherapy type courses in Australia. So we spend a lot of time, like what Ted talked about, with the university advising counselors to just think of what are those options that they would both like to explore, and then kind of work backwards from that and just think like what kind of subjects would you want to develop and sort of work with. And we can support students with, some students might study just say 4 subjects, and that provides them with a certain level of credits that will lead to them getting our high school diploma. But they don't sit they sit within the normal classes, so they will sort of follow along with the normal classes. So they would be in the biology class in terms of that kind of program. But they just might not be, for some students actually, they don't really actually need to do like the extended essay, or they don't necessarily need to say like do TOK, and actually it gives them a lot of flexibility. Some of our, like, I've had 1 or 2 high performing sports students that's actually given them more time for their early morning swimming practices, and so we do a lot to support students just in terms of the whole child kind of pathway.
Thank you, Andrew. We have time for just a couple more questions, so I apologise to everybody if we can't get to your questions. We've powered through as many as possible. Ted, I'm going to ask you a question, which is a terrific question, and I know that many parents are keen to know this. What's our policy on mobile phone usage between classes and on campus in high school? Because I know it differs between the school sections.
Yeah. In both high schools across Dover and East, the expectation is that phones are in bags all the time when they're in classes. Occasionally, they might be asked to pull them out to use them for a very specific reason, but generally they're not used. We also have phone hotels in each classroom where kids can deposit those as they enter the class, so that they're not a distraction for them, and so on. We do take a slightly different approach on break time. Dover tends to say that phones are away the whole time during break and lunch, whereas East, we do allow students to use the phones at break and at lunch. And we're trying to create more of a partnership with parents and running sessions with them to look at the different settings and controls on phones, and what parents can do and us can do, so we can work as a partnership between parent, student, and us.
And what about laptops as well, Ted? So not just phones, but laptops.
Well, laptops are regular tools used in classrooms across both campuses.
A tool for learning, though, that
Yes.
that is not doesn't become a social tool during the break times. Just looking at the time, I'm going to finish on a terrific question, and I think I'll sort of throw this to Gemma and Andrew, and if anybody else would like to jump in. It is, how are we thinking about preparing our high schoolers for the world of AI that is not just lying ahead, but it is currently very real and present? So who'd like to jump in first?
I could begin a little bit by, I think, and then maybe or Gemma as well, maybe if she wants to add some other examples. But I think as a school, yeah, we're completely aware of like the profound changes that it's having in terms of, I guess, the world of work in the future. And I think if I was a parent, I'd be asking, the same question of any school, is that how are you preparing the students for that future? And then we're very committed to that. And I think, but we're also reticent in thinking that, that in the classroom we really value that sort of face-to-face relationship, and that we're very, I think, like disciplined around how we use technology. We'll use it where it can make sense and where it develops skills, but we do value in classroom time that sort of face-to-face experiment and practicals and hands-on things. But like in a couple of areas, we're working really hard. We're just thinking like, so for students that are doing their extended essay at the moment, we work with them to understand there's a lot of these lovely AI databases that can help to synthesize and to pull out the themes across research. And that's a task previously that students used to really struggle with and spend a lot of time doing. And so it can really help them in those aspects. And I was in the library last week and a bunch of students studying for a chemistry assessment. But like it's a lovely, some of the way that we're sort of teaching students a little bit of how to use it as a coach. So no, it can help you to sort of tutoring and a little bit of help around some tricky concepts as well. So we're sort of leaning into those opportunities where they're appropriate in our high schools.
Gemma, did you want to add anything else? Any thoughts? I know our digital literacy coaches are looking very closely at AI and how we use it as a learning tool and how students might use it as well.
So just adding on to what Andrew was saying, and from an IB perspective, so the IB was one of the organisations to come out early in this conversation to say that they wouldn't be banning AI as a tool, but looking for ways to help students use it critically and engage with it intentionally and ethically. And so that has very much been our focus. And to echo what Andrew was saying, it's that piece about intentionality, so that we're not kind of opening the floodgates without purpose. And we're also still very much focused on students developing the expertise themselves, the subject knowledge that they still need to be able to use these tools critically and purposefully, and as something that is additive to the work that they are doing rather than replacing their own efforts. So we know that a valuable part of learning is precisely in those moments of struggle, right? And so we're coaching students through those conversations in our own dialogue with them, and how we're encouraging them to use AI to sit with them in those moments of struggle to improve and enhance their thinking rather than replacing that really important work.
Great. And I think if I can just add, as a parent whose children are in the younger levels at school, I think about this a great deal. And this is where you see the holistic UWC program becomes even more important, because it's not just about the knowledge and the skills, but it's also that critical thinking. We know that universities and companies now really value that full picture of the students, from service to PSE, where they can demonstrate empathy, they can demonstrate the critical thinking skills, and these are all the skills that we know that AI is not able to replace. And so that's why that holistic learning program is so important as well. Okay, I think we've made it pretty much just on time. Malika, if I could just ask you to show our final slide. I just want to thank everybody for sticking with us. I know it was a very long session, but hopefully the information that you received today answered many of those questions that you had around our learning program. We spent a lot of time on academics, even though it is, we value all of our 5 elements equally. We know that parents are really interested to know about the curriculum in particular. If you would like to just take a screenshot of the QR code here, we would be very grateful for some feedback. It's a very short survey. It just helps us to really tailor these sessions to make sure that your time with us is valuable. And if you could take a screenshot and maybe fill in that quick survey, that would be fantastic. And just a final shout out, as Malika mentioned, we do have the boarding webinar coming up. Looking at my calendar here, it's on Wednesday the 1st. And we have our high school open days in person at the end of this week also. So we'd be delighted to see as many of you as possible on our campuses, looking at meeting our students, meeting members of our community, and having a look at the facilities on Dover and East. So thank you very much. Malika, is there anything else you'd like to add, or is that fantastic?
I think you've covered it all. Thank you very much to our audience, and thank you so much to our high school teams on both campuses. Have a good day.
Thanks for
Bye-bye.
joining us.
Everybody.